In the summer of 216 BC, on the hot plains near the small village of Cannae in southern Italy, the Roman Republic faced one of the darkest days in its long and violent history. What began as a show of overwhelming strength ended as a catastrophe so complete that it shocked the ancient world. This was the Battle of Cannae, a battle that would become a timeless lesson in warfare, strategy, and human cost. At the center of this story stands one man, Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian general whose name would become synonymous with fear in Rome. Facing him was the largest army Rome had ever assembled, over 50,000 soldiers, confident, disciplined, and determined to crush their enemy once and for all. They would fail. The Battle of Cannae did not begin on the battlefield. It began years earlier, during the Second Punic War between Rome and Carthage. Carthage, a powerful maritime empire based in North Africa, had long rivaled Rome for dominance in the Mediterranean world. Hannibal Barca, son of the Carthaginian general Hamilcar Barca, was raised for war. As a child, he swore eternal hatred toward Rome. By the time he became commander of Carthaginian forces, he was already a master strategist, known for his intelligence, discipline, and ability to inspire loyalty among men from many cultures. In 218 BC, Hannibal shocked the Roman world by leading his army, including war elephants, across the Alps into Italy. It was a move considered impossible. Yet, he succeeded, and what followed was a series of devastating Roman defeats. At the Battle of the Trebia, Roman forces were ambushed and destroyed. At Lake Trasimene, an entire Roman army was wiped out in a surprise attack. Panic spread through Rome. Never before had an enemy penetrated so deeply into Italian territory. Still, Rome refused to surrender. By 216 BC, the Roman Senate decided that caution had failed. Instead of avoiding Hannibal, they would confront him directly with overwhelming force. Rome raised the largest army it had ever fielded, approximately 80,000 infantry and 6,000 cavalry, drawn from Roman citizens and allied Italian states. The army was commanded by two consuls, as was Roman tradition: Lucius Aemilius Paulus, experienced and cautious, and Gaius Terentius Varro, aggressive and confident. The command alternated daily between the two men, a system that would prove disastrous. The Romans believed numbers alone would guarantee victory. Hannibal's army was smaller, estimated at around 40,000 infantry and 10,000 cavalry, composed of Carthaginians, Libyans, Iberians, Gauls, and Numidians. But Hannibal's strength was not in numbers, it was in strategy. The two armies met near the village of Cannae, beside the Aufidus River. The land was flat, open, and perfect for large formations. It was exactly the kind of battlefield the Romans preferred. The Roman army formed a massive, dense block, heavy infantry packed tightly together, designed to smash through the enemy's center by sheer force. Roman commanders believed that once their infantry broke through, victory would be inevitable. Hannibal saw something different. He saw opportunity. Hannibal arranged his forces in a formation that defied Roman expectations. At the center, he placed his weakest troops, Gauls and Iberians, in a shallow crescent that bulged outward toward the Romans. His strongest infantry, the disciplined Libyan veterans, were placed on the flanks, slightly held back. His cavalry, superior in skill and numbers, was positioned on both wings. It was a trap. Hannibal knew the Romans would push forward aggressively. He intended to let them. On the morning of August 2nd, 216 BC, the armies advanced. Dust filled the air. The sun burned overhead. Trumpets sounded, and tens of thousands of men marched toward one another. The Roman infantry slammed into Hannibal's center with overwhelming force. Slowly, the Carthaginian center began to fall back, exactly as planned. The crescent bent inward, drawing the Roman soldiers deeper and deeper into the formation. The Romans believed they were winning. They were wrong. As the Roman infantry surged forward, Hannibal gave the signal. The Libyan infantry on both flanks wheeled inward, attacking the Roman sides. At the same time, the Carthaginian cavalry, having already defeated the Roman cavalry, swept around the rear of the Roman army. The Roman legions were now surrounded on all sides. This maneuver, known as double envelopment, was executed with terrifying precision. Roman soldiers found themselves trapped in a shrinking circle of steel, unable to maneuver, unable to escape. The battlefield became a killing ground. Inside the encirclement, chaos reigned. Roman soldiers were packed so tightly they could barely raise their weapons. Carthaginian soldiers pressed inward, relentlessly. There was no room to flee.
No room to fight effectively? For hours, the slaughter continued. By the end of the day, over 50,000 Roman soldiers lay dead. Another 10,000 were captured. Among the dead were consuls, senators, tribunes, and experienced veterans. It was one of the worst defeats in Roman history, and one of the bloodiest single days of combat in the ancient world. Hannibal had annihilated a Roman army. Rome, in shock news of the defeat, reached Rome like an earthquake. The city fell into mourning. Public ceremonies were suspended. Fear gripped the population. Never before had Rome lost so many men in a single battle. Yet Rome did not collapse. Instead, the Romans did something extraordinary. They endured. Although Cannae was Hannibal's greatest victory, it did not bring final triumph. Rome refused to negotiate. Instead, it adopted a new strategy, avoiding major battles and slowly wearing Hannibal down. Years later, Rome would recover, invade Carthage, and defeat Hannibal's forces in Africa. But the memory of Cannae would never fade. For centuries, military commanders studied the battle. From ancient generals to modern military academies, Cannae became the ultimate example of tactical brilliance. It proved that intelligence could defeat numbers, that strategy could overcome strength, and that even the mightiest power could fall in a single day. The Battle of Cannae stands as a warning and a lesson. It reminds us that history is shaped not only by power, but by the minds that wield it. On that scorching day in 216 BC, Hannibal Barca changed the course of warfare forever. And Rome learned at terrible cost that even an empire could bleed.